I want to start with a short reading. And I'm going to be reading from a book called The Theory of Everything by Jed McKenna. This book, and Jed is not on my recommended reading list because I don't really ever suggest his writings, only because I consider his sort of perspective on Advaita to be rather without heart and a bit arrogant. So I don't suggest it, but I do every once in a while think he sort of really is very concise, and the root of yoga and the root of Advaita are really the same roots. Yes, these yoga asanas that we do are really merely to sort of contemplate the wisdom and the teachings and the sort of inner contemplative energy that we all have. So I think it's sometimes worthy to ease into the teachings at that level. The other thing I wanted to say before we get started is, I need to have my little gong bell, hold on, is just the levels of intensity that we can experience in this practice. So I just want to make sure, and sort of my ongoing invitation is that if your body gets to the point where it just doesn't feel right and it really wants to relax and rest, please honor that. And two things that we can do: you can just lie down and rest if you would like, but oftentimes, because the practice, because of the tension in the pelvis and the lumbar, is really primarily centered around forward bending and backward bending, yes? Although today we're going to compress into the shoulder a bit. But what I would like to suggest, if you do want to come out of a pose and take a rest, that you can always come into our very mild forward bend is just a child's pose. So you can just come into child's pose and you're still exploring the forward bending of the lumbar area, but hopefully from a very relaxed place. Or if you'd like, you can just make a nice soft roll. This is a very soft blanket, and just come over that. So you're sitting on the floor, just putting a blanket behind the lumbar side to side. So I've got a little bit of compression here, but it's enough to really allow me to rest, but still feel that I'm giving this area of my body some attention. So just to keep that in mind, and I think it is a good reminder, no matter how long we're doing this practice, that if we get in too deep and the body needs something else, or you just need to regroup, it's really always best to honor that. So to open, I'm going to share this reading. So if you would like to get into one of these positions, you're welcome to sit up with me if you can relax. It's a very short reading. Or you can have a roll and come into that backward bend, something soft under the lumbar, or you could come into a simple child's pose and start relaxing into a forward bend, or any other position that you find restful. I'll just open with this short reading. And really, when we break the translation down, Advaita Vedanta and yoga, they actually mean the same thing in terms of no separation, not two. And this is always the primary exploration of yoga is, what is the nature of myself in relation to all the apparent experiences that are arising. Yeah. And this is something that we then come into a quiet inner place and begin to explore. So make yourself comfortable, and I will open with this reading. Advaita Vedanta is the philosophical pinnacle of Eastern thought, and therefore of world thought. But Advaita is like Buddhism and Zen for me. As soon as I enter, everything that lured me in turns into something else. From the outside, it looks okay, but as soon as you go in, you find yourself right back in Maya's house of mirrors. My distinct impression is that many adherents and promoters of Advaita and non-duality completely misunderstand both what it is and what it's not. Brahman is Atman. Atman is Brahman. That's the whole deal. Truth has no teaching, requires no guru, and is not a spiritual pursuit. That bears repeating. Truth is not a spiritual pursuit. A guru may be necessary to follow a teaching, but to make a journey, we must cut everything away, gurus and teachings included. We can sit together, but we must travel alone. If you think you see more in Advaita or any teaching, then look down and watch those vines wrapping around your ankles. Remember, there's nothing to know. Kill the guru. No head full of spiritual knowledge or wall full of spiritual books can ever be other than an anchor. All forward motion depends on release, not gain. Only that knowledge which destroys knowledge facilitates progress. Don't seek external validation, be your own guru. Students don't make journeys and travelers don't sit in classrooms. This little caution bears emphasizing because our compelling tendency towards spiritual inertia is why the most spiritually knowledgeable, respected, and dedicated are not themselves awake. If you want to understand Maya, if you want to make sense of the dream state, if you want to reconcile the irreconcilable, then you are consigning yourself to a lifetime of blind wandering, like countless billions before you. You can believe something new every week or one thing for the rest of your life, but you will never discover the slightest trace of true knowledge. You'll be in good company, though, if that counts for anything. Yeah, there's quite a bit there. And for our purposes, I just want to repeat this one sentence because it really allows us to sink deeply into the, especially the essence of the approach of yin and how we approach the body and the mind and the heart, where he says all forward motion depends on release, not gain. So in this practice, we are allowing ourselves to come into a place of deep rest and relaxation and a trusting relationship with our body, so we can then naturally invite release to happen and have no concern with gain, progress, goals, or agendas. Now the discipline of yoga. Good. So if you've come into a forward bend or that lovely relaxing backward bend, let's come on up. And if you had something very soft under your back, let's put that aside and get something with a little bit more heft to it. So we're going to need a blanket, and we're going to roll up that blanket. Now, how much you roll up the blanket really depends on the feedback that you're going to get from your lower lumbar spine. And the reason I gave that little talk about levels of intensity and making sure you rest, this particular sequence, it's one of my favorite. It's very powerful for releasing lots of constriction, contraction, resistance in the lower back, but it has some intensity to it. At least for me, it does. So yes, be careful with that. So how you roll up this blanket does not have to be, mimicking how I'm rolling it up. And I'm going to only roll it up to this point because I know how my lower back is with this kind of blanket. So I want a blanket rolled up that has a little bit of firmness and stiffness to it, so it doesn't just give and nothing is happening. And then as you're sitting, I would like you to take this, we're going to start coming forward, but I'd like you to have the blanket ready. So I'd like you to take the roll of this blanket and put it behind you and just slide it behind you to on the left side to the center of the spine. So I'm not pulling this roll all the way across. So my entire back is supported. I'm just bringing it to my spine. And so because it's soft, it can be a little bit on the spine, but not to the right of the spine. So we just are going to do half of the lumbar. And this is going to mimic the forward bending when we come forward, as we keep the right leg out and bring the left leg in. So typically, I won't go into the anatomical reason for this, but typically in this position with the right leg extended out and the left leg, so the inside of the left foot is somewhere on the inside of that right leg, and then the left knee can just relax down. It brings a lot of compression to the left lumbar. And so that's where we want this roll. After this forward bend, we're going to come back onto this roll with just the left half and then go back into it with this left leg. So to begin, have your roll set up so it's only to the left half of the lumbar on the floor, sitting on the floor. Extend the right leg out, bring the left leg up and in, and then just come into a very intuitive forward bending. So we're not trying to force or stretch or even really manipulate the body. We're just allowing the weight of the torso to draw us into these threads of a contraction wherever they may be. So I like to really encourage you to take your time on the way down and maybe even sway the upper body left and right a bit to see how it's feeling back there. And then when you come to a good appropriate depth, you can either support yourself with your hands and really relax the head down, or often we want some extra bolstering up front to lean on. So have as much bolstering in front of you as you need to make sure that the weight of the torso is not pulling you in so deep that it doesn't feel safe. You want to feel safe. You want to be able to relax and really feel the kind of the intricacy of what your experience is. And also to make sure that each and every one of these poses we're setting up so we can really stay in them. So we can really allow the compression to really work into the tightness of the body and the misalignment of the body, these places that are kind of dense and hard to feel. And this, the longevity of this compression is what ultimately starts to open things up. So please do take your time. Don't worry about depth. Relax, feel safe. And just to remind ourselves that the contemplative energy of this practice is just beautifully profound. So anything and everything that's arising from your experience, can be potentially something to contemplate. Sometimes not. Sometimes things just arise and they have really no relevance and we just let them fade. But I think particularly this idea that Jed was presenting, that all forward motion depends on release, not gain. So this is something, not to take at face value, not to take his or my word for it, but to very quietly and very simply contemplate this, because this goes contrary to almost everything we've been taught most of our life. So from the level of our psychology, from the level of our emotions, from the way that we're holding our physical body, the suggestion is to move forward, to unfold in a positive and therapeutic way. This is contingent upon releasing, not adding more, whatever it happens to be. So the invitation of the yoga is to simply contemplate this. And also remembering that we are in a relationship with any discomfort you're feeling. We're not simply trying to tolerate it. So if anything becomes uncomfortable, no need to struggle. If the energy of struggle starts to arise, certainly withdraw a bit. But we want to be in a relationship with the discomfort where we're realizing it has something to tell us, it's sharing something. If we go beyond that and it feels unsafe or punitive, or again, that energy of struggle, we want to back out to a more appropriate depth. So it's not the discomfort per se, it's your relationship to it. And this is unique and individual to you. So let us just softly and gently roll up from here. So nice and easy here. And let's straighten out that left leg. So just have both legs straight out in front of us for a few moments here. And that's going to be where we'll end up in the backward bend, is that leg will be up and in, but not right away. So let's just start with them relaxed out. Make sure that your roll is placed, again, coming from the center of the spine off to the left. So you're going to have one half of the spine compressed. Yeah. And then let's bend the knees so just we feel nice and stable. So we want to just place this carefully, especially when we're not supporting the right lumbar, a little more intensity here. So I'm advising caution, and then just settle in, and you'll kind of feel it when you get to the forearms and the elbows. Be like, okay, yes, this is good, or I need a little more or a little less. And then let the whole body relax down. And then once the body is down stable on the floor, let your legs relax out. Yeah. So just to stay here for a bit and let the lumbar, just let the lumbar acclimate here. And what I want to explain here is that we have three possible positions. What I'm going to suggest at some point, not quite yet, is we're going to, again, just as we were on that forward bend, we're going to draw that left foot up and in so it's on the inside of the right leg, and the right knee can just completely relax to the left, the left knee can completely relax to the left side. This is quite compressive for this left lumbar, yeah? So that you could then straighten that leg out, just have both legs straight. This releases some of that compression. If you feel you need more release or want to explore that, you could bring the right foot up and in, then the weight of that right leg kind of rolls you off it a bit, and it's a nice release. So again, depending on where you're at over the course of the minutes, you have those three options. So from here, let's do that. Keep the right leg extended, draw that left foot up and in, put the sole of the foot on the inside, somewhere along that leg, usually around the knee is good, the calf. You can come up to the inner thigh if you like, but don't force it. And then make sure the weight of that leg is over there. And then see, this may be, you may only be here a minute or two and you need to release. I showed you how to do that. Or if you're good, you can relax. You also may, now with the added compression of the leg, feel like you want to adjust the roll. So feel free to do that as well. And often when we intentionally apply this compression or discomfort, both really the same thing at some level, that it will affect either subtly or not so subtly our breathing patterns. So check in with that. See if your breath is reflecting anything at the level of this physical compression. And it's always beneficial in this practice to just allow the breath to slow down, allow it to lengthen and deepen. So you're really feeling it. You're feeling the fullness of the inhale and you're feeling the emptiness of the exhale with no agenda in mind, no technique in mind, but simply to feel really the power and the intelligence of your breathing patterns and what they may be reflecting. very interesting when we really start to slip into this quietness, and we really start to feel and connect with this place of inner stillness. So this is, in yoga, we call this the ground of our being, just simple yet profound stillness. And then all of the, the yoga, the scriptures, the Advaita Vedanta, the non-duality, it's all just, what should I call it? It's all just a container to hold one single question: is who are we? And the beautiful thing about allowing ourselves to sit in this presence of stillness is that this question, who are we, is never answered in words. The intellect has no idea. Yes, theories and philosophies, of course, they abound. But to answer this question, who am I? There's no words, there's no intellect, there's no language to answer this question. So I invite you to relax into this stillness. Just be absorbed into this stillness. Let the breath, the body, the heart, the mind all just dissipate, dissolve, soften into a place of quiet presence. So if you do still have that left leg up, let's just start to straighten that out. And we'll take a moment here. Yeah, so just slowly straighten that left leg out. And we can feel already it's lessened some of that compression into that left side. And then from there, let's bring that right leg up. So this is now going to weight you over to the right. It's kind of like bringing you off of that roll a little bit, just so we can really come out of this gradually. And then the best way out of this is just to keep that roll going to the right. So slowly, you can draw that left leg up if you'd like, pull both knees up to the chest, roll off that blanket, and just curl on your side for a few moments. This would be the obvious place for a nice long rest, but we're going to keep going here. So just a little bit more to go. So just curl up here for a bit. And see if you can bring the knees as high up to the chest as possible. This is nice. It's a nice relaxing place. A lot of exploration here. But bringing the knees up towards the chest is also really, really good for your digestion. So to kind of massage that and feel that compression into the digestive area, it's very nice to do. And then let's come on up. So we're just going to come back up and we're going to go right back into that forward bend where we started. So we're still in this left lumbar area. So we'll do exactly what we did before. We'll keep the right leg out, bring the left leg in. And just let me caution you that now we still are now holding the sort of the energetics of the backward bend. And so go even slower than you did the first time. And again, this is where support it can be really, really valuable. So we're kind of unwinding the backward bend, coming back into the forward bend. And just wait, let your body invite you to curl and go deeper. Don't have these preconceived positions. So again, a little sway to the left or the right, relaxing the head down. And then wherever you wind up, this will be our forward bend. And certainly, perfectly fine for us to just drift into such a quiet, vague place that we just trust that the body will just breathe itself. But every once in a while, we want to consciously come back to the presence of the breath. And part of the being present with the breath is really acknowledging what you are breathing in. So it doesn't become mechanical. Every single breath is for the first time, it's brand new. So we're breathing in life force, we're breathing in energy, we're breathing in the universe. We're breathing out, releasing anything that's not necessary. We're breathing out toxins, we're breathing out tensions and fatigues. We're breathing out to relax into a place of emptiness. So having some awareness of this, even if it doesn't have to be in the language that I'm describing it, but you just feel it. You feel the fullness, the presence, the prana of the inhale, and the beautiful, empty release and surrender of the exhale. This is an ongoing exploration with your breathing. And also this inhalation, when I say prana, this is an invitation to honor within that which animates everything. So yes, this prana is animating you, but this is the fundamental animation of all things. So just to give this an honoring, just to give this an internal bow, honoring within that which animates everything. So let's emerge. Come on up nice and easy, slowly. And then let's, again, straighten out that left leg and make yourself comfortable. Let's take a bit of a rest here, since that, at least for me, that was quite significant. So I want to give that left side a nice rest before we approach the right side. So just make yourself comfortable and we'll take a bit of a rest here. And, feel free to, explore with the way that you're resting. So again, you can come into a child's position if you prefer. You can curl up on your side and bring your knees up. You can lie flat. Eventually, we want to come to lying flat so we can just let the chi, redistribute through the body and open through the joints. But we have time here, so whatever your body feels it needs to really, release and unwind and come back to some sense of equilibrium. And just simply staying as present as you can with whatever feedback you're getting from your body. So whether you're in, just the deepest depth of the pose, or resting gently, fading in and out even, you're always getting feedback. And so part of the yoga is just getting increasingly sensitive to the feedback that you are receiving, because this is your primary guidance. This is the cultivation of intuition. So sometimes we just want to sit quietly and just listen, whether it's in a yoga posture or relaxing. And certainly, part of this deeper listening is to just ask the question, asking ourselves the question, what is it that needs attention? What is it that I've been either pushing away or pulling away from that really needs attention? And again, often this is not a question that gets answered intellectually or with language. Oftentimes the body just gives us sort of an impulse or a direction or an intuitive insight. So the listening is really the cultivation of the depth in this practice. And the discomfort is often the doorway. The discomfort is often saying, or the symptom, we could use symptom. The symptom is saying, okay, now I've got your attention. Now listen. Now relax into. Now pay attention. And so then we have this beautiful way to kind of layer in sensation by sensation. So we want to honor and respect, again, an inner bow to our discomfort because it's trying to guide us. It's trying to bring light to any density and darkness in the body. Okay, shall we come on up, please? And we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Nice and slow. Again, you have your roll, and you may need to, sometimes you need to re-roll the roll because the weight on it for the extended period can kind of smush it down and get it a little flat. So I like to re-roll it and get a nice fresh roll. And this side, good chance it's going to be a little different than the left side. So you may, again, be aware that you can play with the height of the roll more or less. And we'll just tuck it onto the right side. And again, only to the spine, not to the left side. So it's going to be setting on the right. And this time we will extend the left leg out. We'll bring the right leg and that right foot so it's somewhere along the inside of that left leg. The right knee relaxing down. We'll have the roll ready. So when we finish the forward bend, we'll come into the backward bend. Again, nice and slow. We've already been in there. There's going to be some movement of energy from the left lumbar to the right. Be aware of that. Relax the shoulders, relax the weight of your head, soften the lower back, round it. We're not trying to stretch to the toes. We're just really wanting to unengage muscularly as much as possible. Find an appropriate depth, support yourself as much as you need to, and just start to melt into it. And be curious. The curiosity in this practice is very open-ended. And how am I feeling? Is there any resistance in my breathing? Is there even a small corner of my heart that may be holding some pain? What is the nature of this discomfort in the body? On and on, all of these kinds of open-ended inquiries, and just be curious about them, but don't allow yourself to begin a story or an interpretation. You do not need an interpretation to feel. Just simply feel. And the curiosity will then allow the body to relax enough to evoke the intuition of the body to guide you. And this is why it's so important, if you're feeling that you need to withdraw a bit, rearrange, do something different, rest, you want to listen to that, because this is the intuition that is guiding you. And also in a bigger picture, in our day-to-day unfolding of life, this is the idea that we are our own gurus, that we want to take all of that external information that's coming in and have a really clear, honest, truthful filter about it. So we don't turn external information, various ideas, various opinions, various judgments, we don't turn them into belief systems. A belief system is great. It's fun, we can use them, but a belief system is never true. What's true is the immediacy of being present in each moment unfolding. That's what's true. And we want to stay as close to that and as intimate with that as possible. And again, the inquiry of what is it that needs attention, with the full awareness that the fabric of the physical is woven into the fabric of the emotional, is woven into the fabric of the psychological, is woven into the fabric of the spiritual. So what is it that needs attention moment to moment? Okay, so come on up, please. Nice and slow once again. And just like on the left side, let's just take a moment to extend that right leg out so we're good. And then have your roll. Should be all ready. If it's not, we're going to place it on the right half of the lumbar. And then we'll pull that right leg up, but not at the moment. So both feet on the floor. And again, nice and easy, very mindfully here. Tuck it in, snuggle into it. Yeah. Discern too deep, not enough. Let the upper body come down. And then once the upper body is stable, both legs relax out. Yeah, and we'll just stay here just for a few moments. And then just to remind you, what we're going to do is we're going to bring that right leg up and in and let the right leg go off to the side. You also have the option throughout the duration, if you need to straighten both legs out and go a little more and bring that left leg up, and that'll roll you off it a bit. So if you need to withdraw at some point, that's the way to do it. Good. So if you'd like to draw that right leg up now, place it on the inside somewhere of the left leg. Let the right leg relax down, and we'll see what we got here. allowing the inhalation to be an invitation to honor that which animates everything. Allowing the exhalation to relax and release into a sense of pure, open emptiness. And also being curious as to what is behind all of these internal commentaries and these internal dialogues, this visualized imagery. So this is something very beautiful to explore, and it is also very conducive to deeper states of relaxation, because you get to see, it's self-evident that we are still present, we are still conscious, we are still aware when we're not so close to and not so attached to these inner dialogues, these inner commentaries. So to really relax into this spaciousness, there's not a tissue in the body, there's not a part of the body that doesn't benefit on some level from this deep relaxation. And also what I was saying earlier about it's not so much the sensation of discomfort itself, but our relationship to it. So one of the things that we want to explore, and this is very, very personal, this is a personal intimacy, is how is or has this pain served me? And when the pain no longer serves us, it just dissipates, it just drifts away. And so this is very tricky. This is not a formula. This is not a technique. This is not a judgment. This is to be very, very present and very, very respectful with discomfort, whether it's emotional, whether it's psychological, whether it's just physical aches, or it's symptomatic of something deeper in our processes, in our organs, in our system. That is this pain serving us in some way? Does it have an intelligence to inform us? And what is my relationship to that feedback? And when it's no longer necessary, does that pain shift and dissipate. This is a very, very important and beautiful exploration. And I'm not saying, all I'm saying is it's an inquiry. This is a depth of self-inquiry in relation to discomfort. And even in our relationships, and even in our relationship to the world, is my discomfort with a relationship, my discomfort with the world at large, with the collective, when that discomfort serves its purpose, can I relax and dissipate that discomfort and move on to the next lesson? Okay, so if you still have that right leg to the right, it's been a while, huh? Let's straighten that right leg out first. So we've got a little bit of release off that right lumbar. My suggestion is to pull that left leg up so it starts to roll off of it, and just take your time. Let it sort of unwind here. And then when you're ready, we'll roll over to the left, draw the knees up to the chest. Relax on your side for a bit. Good, and let's come on up and let's finish this seemingly never-ending sequence, huh? Let the left leg relax out, bring the right leg back in. So exactly what we did before the backward bend, and we'll come forward one more time. But again, nice and slow, mindfully, the energy, you can feel it, that the backward bend is still there. So take your time, ease into it, go nice and slow. And this is why, at least in my own explorations, my own evolution, if I am opening my energies, opening my consciousness to someone else's suffering or something suffering, the planet at large, the collective, individuals, some might call it prayer, I never open with an intention to remove the suffering. My intention is always, may the suffering be as elegant and as gentle as possible to receive the lesson. And the same thing for myself. Whenever I am leaning into something that feels uncomfortable, whenever I am feeling a sense of the mind-body complex wanting to suffer, I don't wish it away. I wish that I may learn the lesson with as much elegance and as much depth and as much gentleness as possible, so I can really, really receive what it is that the discomfort wants to teach me. And again, this is very personal for us to really explore. And it's why this practice allows us and really cultivates hovering and leaning into and exploring our own discomfort. And that we see, it doesn't take, there's no level of real experience needed or sophistication to see that when I compress into my physical body, when the soma is restricted, blocked, and uncomfortable, that's certainly tied into many other layers of energetic, emotional, psychological discomfort. Such a beautiful way to explore oneself at this level. Good. So let's come on up from here and let's put this whole sequence to rest and take a rest. So extend your leg out, make yourself comfortable, and let's take a bit of a longer rest now before we move on. And I think part of us being able to let go of any sense of struggle in our practice and really in our life is to really be able to genuinely understand and let go of any sense of dichotomy that we might have about the mind body, so to say. This idea that somehow that, our thoughts are not good, and if we weren't thinking we would be more spiritual or more meditative. But the brain itself, this sort of generator of thoughts, or at least this sort of matrix of the thought, the brain is not trying to derail our spiritual growth in any way. Your brain, it just wants to think. This is what it does. This is what it likes to do. It's brilliant at thinking. So why would we deny its very nature? The brain is not the enemy. So just as we allow the organs to do their job, we allow the lungs to breathe, the digestive system to digest, we just let the brain think. And so we then allow the exploration of what it means to be in the body and what is this thinking mechanism. And it takes us to a very, I do believe it takes us to somewhat of a mysterious place. The final teachings, if you will, when you really start to sort of coalesce or condense the teachings of all the traditions, really, they really come down to being about respect and kindness, and including ourself, like how to really be self-compassionate to ourselves. And then this state of relaxation that this yoga is really allowing us to cultivate, it really allows us to just to lay down our burdens and to let our concepts just start to melt. So it's one thing to allow the brain to do what it does, and it thinks. And sometimes it's really, really powerful and creative to do that. But we don't have to allow those thoughts to come into concrete concepts and belief systems that hold us in a certain place. I mean, the solution is often in the dissolution. And these final teachings are telling us, and we get to explore this moment to moment in our direct experience, that you are not just your body. You are not just your thoughts. You are not your history. You are not who you think you are. And then we just get to return to honoring this body as mystery. Again, coming back to that inquiry, who we really are. So let your nature be your nature. Let your brain do what it loves to do. Allow your awareness, consciousness, intelligence to explore the texture and the fabric and the nature of your experience of the body. Yes, allowing our concepts to melt, especially self-concepts. Well, not especially, but those are tricky ones. Who we think we are. Okay, so let's come on up. I want to come into a simple shoulder press. So we're going to start this. You can just roll over onto your belly and come up onto your forearms. And we'll just take a second here. Let's just take a second here. So this is just so nice to ease into the lower back here, but just open the legs and really sway the hips back and forth. So we can really just sort of feel. This is such an interesting area because the lumbar spine sets into the sacrum is set into the pelvis. Pelvis is an incredibly ligamented part of the body, holding the hips and transmitting tension up the spine. So just kind of wiggle your tail a little bit. Good. And then what we're simply going to do is we'll just support yourself on your left elbow, forearm, and then take the right hand and slip it under that left armpit. And then we're going to try to relax down. I know the tendency is to roll over to the right, but we just want to relax down. And what I suggest, I should have told you this before we got here, is to have some sort of pillow for your head. I mean, you could drop the head down, but I don't really enjoy that. So we're trying to keep the left shoulder over to the left, certainly the left hip over, so we're not rolling to the right. You could bring that left leg up to get the hips more stable. And then, like I said, put something under the head here. So we really have the weight of the whole upper torso. The left arm stays just relaxed in front of you in case you need to press up and adjust or release a little bit. But we're just pressing into this right shoulder. So have it kind of just right. Now, of course, if you've got shoulder issues or, previous injuries, then you can roll off of it. Then you roll off of it a bit and just come to where you can tolerate it. So injuries are a whole different thing. If you have injuries, you should, and you're not clear on how to use this practice, then you should just really get in touch with me. We can talk about it. But just a nice, slow, long, deep compression into the shoulder girdle. What could be better? And so even if there is tightness, there's density, tingling, most important to be able to relax. So over time, you're just feeling like you're just being drawn into this area. So all of the bones here, the fascia here, the muscle here, all of the connections here, we just want to really feel like this whole area is receptive to this compression, and it can just saturate in and let the body receive it. And as you do feel your energy drifting inward, this is always an opportunity to soften any boundaries. Also, the gentleness of the breath allows us to soften boundaries. So wherever you encounter an alleged boundary, just soften it and see if it's actually there. The deeper you go into your body, the deeper you go into your mind, your heart, the deeper you go in, the less boundaries we can even find. exploring, emerging, surrendering, yielding, allowing, unfolding. So make sure you can find the support of that left hand, that left arm on the floor, and just begin to apply some pressure and push yourself up. And then let's draw that right arm out from under the left armpit. And your choice, you can come back to the forearms and sway the hips again. Or if you just want to relax down and put the forehead on the back of the hands and take a little rest here. I just want to let whatever's going on in that right shoulder dissipate a bit. So if you want some passive movement, fine. If you want to just rest for a moment, but we'll just take a little time here. When we're working with the threads of the elastin and collagen fibers that actually intertwine to make up the fascia that make up the various elements of the body, the ligaments and cartilage and bones and joints, the release is often referred to as unwinding. So we compress and hold, and after that compression, there's a sometimes not so subtle, but often a subtle unwinding and opening. And this is opening up pathways for fluids and energy to move. So this is in some way, it's a very mechanical, basic process, but obviously it's a lot more than that. So if you're down, let's come on up. We'll come back to the forearms and we'll rest on this right forearm. We'll take the left arm, put it under that right armpit. We'll come down onto the shoulder. Relax the right arm out. And again, we're going to try not to, unless we're sensitive in the shoulder for some reason, we're going to try not to roll over to the left.
but let this right shoulder relax down. If you want to bend that right leg up just to stabilize the hips, try to keep that right hip down. A little something pillow or blanket for your head is always nice here. So again, you see how the time we're spending here. So try to make yourself as comfortable as you can here.
One of the very beneficial things about allowing your brain to just think, allowing it to just do what it does, is that we get to make a distinction, a discernment between the thoughts as content. So the content is just the visualized imagery. It appears and it disappears. So this is very easily verified. It's happening all day long. But something is conscious of that. Something is aware of that. So once we start to make this discernment, we can see that the consciousness, the openness of consciousness, the purity of consciousness is always there. We're always conscious. The content is always changing. So the practice then is to just sit with the consciousness. This is why we cultivate stillness. So we get to observe this from a place of stillness, even though stillness, consciousness, the same thing. When we become very still, when we allow this fabric of consciousness to come to the foreground, then we just see the content of sensations, of perceptions. The world itself is always just the content. It's always coming, it's always going. It's always arising, and it's always fading. And the distinction, the discernment to do this allows us then to not have to get entangled in all of our thoughts, not to take our thoughts so seriously, not to weave stories in and out of them and around them. We can just let the brain does what it enjoys doing. It likes to think. And this can be, tricky, certainly, and challenging, especially at the level when we identify with these thoughts. If these thoughts are part of our self-identity, I think I am this, I want to be that, then it's much more challenging, because when we see that we are not the thoughts, we are not the self-image, then, like I was saying earlier, we go into, who am I really? That's the mystery. I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the body, I'm not my history, etc. Who am I? But this is where the rest is. This is where the expansiveness is. This is ultimately where the truth is. The truth is, I am consciousness, pure, open, empty, intelligent. I am not the content that arises in consciousness.
Good. So again, let's press up. Let's slip that arm out. And then if you would like to still have a little wiggle in the hips, feel free, wiggle away. And then from here, we've been on the belly for a while. When you're ready, you just roll over, and let's take a rest on the back and just open the arms out to the side, relax, and let that, see if you can feel that sort of vibrational pulsing of the unwinding. Yeah, so just take a rest here. And I think that what I'm beginning to suspect, at least in my own explorations and contemplations, is that part of the mystery is that it's so incredibly simple, that the simplicity of it makes it mysterious. Because this brain, this thought process, this intellect, this left hemisphere is so good at telling stories, so good at being logical and categorizing and judging and separating, that it can't possibly allow us to be this simple. And I think that the teachings, when we talk about consciousness, being conscious, being aware, that we're also talking about life, that life itself. And this left brain is so good, it's so skillful at separating us from life, thinking, well, we're just a part of life, or we're have to reintegrate into life, or we need to do these practices. But the mystery is, the simplicity is, we're life itself. Again, there's no boundary. So complexity and mystery, if we can just simply sit quietly, we can simply just allow this stillness to vibrate from all of our cells, and allow ourselves this
this openness that we are, this lack of separation, this lack of boundary, we get to experience that we are life itself. We're not separate from any aspect of life. Life is just like our bodies. There's no separate parts within our bodies. It's a vibrating, pulsating wholeness. The same with life. And we are that wholeness. We are life. So it's very tricky. It's very tricky to really sit and contemplate the mystery and allow it to just unfold into simplicity. And it's very tricky to sit with this utter simplicity and then watch it unfold back into the mystery. This is what I would call a primal vibration or a primal pulsation. Okay, so let's come on up. Yeah, let's come on up. And if you have one of the large bolsters, let's use that. If you don't have a large bolster, then a couple of pillows will do. We just want to be able to drape the shoulders over and get a nice big arching backward bend. So I've been using these. These two pillows are perfect. They really mimic this bolster for what we're doing. We're just going to bend over it. You also might want to have something for your head. Yep, for this. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a sort of a version that we first did where we went forward and back and forward and back. We're just going to open the back line a little bit more and do different forward bends. So if you let, I'm just going to show with the big bolster, but you, again, use the pillows if you don't have them. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the feet on the floor and we're going to put the large bolster horizontally side to side. But we're not going to do this first. I'm just showing you what we're going to do after the forward bend. So we come out of the forward bend, we're going to ease over this. Yeah. And if this gets a little bit like, wow, this is a lot, these bolsters can be pretty stiff, you just sit up on something, sit up on a pillow or a blanket. This will ease some of that compression. And then the same thing if you want something for your head so the neck doesn't feel unsafe. So this will be the backward bend. And this could just as easily be pillows. Like I said, we just want the shoulders draping over. So this will be the first backward bend. And I'll just tell you about the second one when we get there. So you can just have that set up behind you. And then very simply, let us sit and bring the soles of the feet together. So we'll just come into a nice butterfly pose and not feeling to tighten the hips. You don't have to draw these heels way into the groin. Let the knees relax, let the hips relax. Yeah. And again, we want to make sure we're encouraging the intrinsic muscles of the back to unengage as we come forward. So this oftentimes takes some sensitivity. And if you need that big bolster forward, you can bring it forward, or if you have pillows to, again, rest the torso weight on, but we'll just come into a nice, simple forward bend. Get this lower back ready for the backward bend. So in the Advaita Vedanta tradition, this is called Atma Vichara. This is a type of self-inquiry where we are using our direct experience for the inquiry. We're not taking any teachings, any philosophy, any techniques with us. We're simply allowing the direct experience to unfold, and we simply have inquiry into that. And so this is very, very powerful, because then if it's a sensation, we can inquire into what is a sensation. What is it that I am feeling? Way before I need to label it or diagnose it. If it's what the brain is doing and it's producing a series of thoughts, of visualized imagery, we simply inquire into what is a thought? What is this vibrational imagery that is appearing to me? We get to explore that. We get to inquire into that. If it's a perception, if I see an image, if I hear a sound, what is the nature of a perception directly? So this is a very personal and direct a form of self-inquiry. Atma vichara. So let's roll up from here. Just roll up and you can straighten your legs out. So again, if you have the big bolster, use the big bolster. If not, then a couple of pillows. So most important, just to keep the buttocks on the floor. You don't have as many options to shift depending on your pillows. So we just want the butt on the floor and the shoulders draped over. Even with the big bolster, there's a little room to go lower or higher. That would be up to you. And then once you, so yeah, I don't really need something for my head, but if you do, we're only using that to support unsafe feelings in the neck. So if you can tolerate something in the neck, allow that to happen. And then once the upper body, the buttocks, the lower back feel stable, and this is a good height, then you just open the legs out and we'll relax into this backward bend. And gentle, calm, long, deep breaths. And earlier, I mentioned the exploration of boundaries. So particularly interesting with the breathing, if we become very sensitive to see, is there really a boundary between the breath itself and your sensation of physicality? So slowing down the breath and just becoming very, very sensitive and just feeling that body, breath, even mind are just all interwoven. So if you feel like you're in an interesting place in this backward bend and you just want to stay just exactly as you are, please feel free to do that. If you'd like to add a twist to it, just be careful. This can be quite intense with the lumbar and the back line elevated. But if you'd like to try it, what we'll do here is just bend the knees and put the feet on the floor, and then ever so slowly let both knees drift over to the left. Try not to roll the upper body to the left. It's kind of hard. It's easier to do if you have the pillows, but try to avoid that. And then if you need to adjust that top leg at all, feel free to do that. We won't be here too long. I do understand it has some intensity, but it's nice how it can, for a reclining twist, it can draw up into the mid back as well. So only if you'd like to give that a try. And if you do have the knees over to the left, this might be a good time just to bring them back up, maybe a little side to side. And if you'd like to let them drop over to the right side, do so very carefully. Good. So if you do have the knees over to the right, you can bring them back up, but keep the feet on the floor. And if your legs are straight out, keep the feet on the floor. So what I'd like to suggest here uh, is with the feet on the floor and you're still in the backward bend, keep the feet flat on the floor, leave the upper body stable for a few moments, and just gently start to press the hips up. Yeah, just a few times, just up and then down. Yeah, just to really feel that pelvic cavity, lower back, pelvic cavity, sacrum area. A lot going on here. Yeah, good. So you just want to soften that, make sure the muscular tension feels safe enough to come out. And then with the feet on the floor, let's roll off of this, either the pillows or the bolster, roll over to the side, come back into this fetal position one more time before we're going to continue with the forward bend, but let's take a little bit of a rest here. Good. So let's come on up and let's just open the legs now, just a little bit past hip width distance. So I like to do this position different than the wider straddle where we're kind of really externally rotating the hip flexors, but we're not straight in here, so the hips get in the way. So just so your hips can relax, so whatever that angle is for you, not fully out, but not hip width exactly. You get the idea. And then let's come forward again. So just a nice slow descent into this. Again, avoid any temptation to stretch. We are not stretching. We're not trying to bring forehead to heels. We want to use this upper torso weight to really draw into the ligaments here of the pelvis and the lumbar area, and really all the way up the back line. So nice and slow. Try to relax the muscles. Don't push or force. Support yourself. So very worthy to contemplate this relationship with life, the possibility that at your essence, you are simply life. So how liberating might that be to an identification that is rather limited to a personality and an ego that we continually have to not only protect, but such a feeling of having to cultivate it. You know, the ego is the only part of us that wants to improve the ego. The ego is the only part of us that wants to protect the ego. So wouldn't it be nice to not have to be looking for the next book on self-improvement and just allow ourselves the possibility that we're simply life itself, and the way that that life unfolds is our moment to moment direct experience. And what's so interesting, again, this relationship between mystery and simplicity, that this direct experience that is unfolding is literally the only thing that we can find. There is only direct experience, whether that's a concept and a thought, a physical sensation, or something in our emotional tone. And once we verify that, we see, I am life. I am the immediacy of life unfolding. And not to disparage the ego, it's a lovely thing. It's the ego then becomes like our wardrobe. You know, we want to put on certain clothes and make a certain impression, and then we do that. But then we take off those clothes. We come back to our essence. So the ego can just be a very interesting, creative part of our exploration, but we don't have to have a fundamental identification with it. Good. So let's come on up from here then, please, if you will. And I'd like to give you a choice depending on how you're feeling in your back line. Yeah, so we started with that lower lumbar. If you would like to do the backward bend that you just did, you're in an interesting place with your back right now, please do. The other choice would be to take it down several notches, and instead of having this large bolster crossways horizontally, place it vertically. Yeah. So we'll tuck it into the lower back and just soften over it. So this is bringing the whole thing to a softer, more relaxing place. We'll just relax over the bolster. The thing is that if you're using the pillows, you're going to need to support the upper torso. So what I would do is I would just get my pillows tucked into my lower back, but we're not going to drape the shoulders over, obviously, is what I'm saying. So you need to add something to to lengthen that. So when you come over this, so yes, I'm feeling some lumbar compression, but now my upper body is supported as well. And if it's not enough, or you want a little more, you could add a blanket in that lumbar. But again, just finding at this point with the back line, if you're wanting to bring it down and just let it relax more, it's just a bit of compression and a bit of relaxation. But if you choose to, you could put either one in the horizontal and drape the shoulders over, kind of like right where you were. Let me just revisit something I said earlier, because it's been so prevalent in my own exploration. And the way that I'm putting this in couching it, in that it's when we get to the final teachings in most, I think all traditions, is that because at sort of the final teachings are no longer about the mechanics or the techniques that we at a certain point in our journey, in our practice just becomes so intuitive. It becomes so automatic. It's just like breathing. So these final teachings, if you will, become more about respect, more about kindness, more about knowing how to inner bow, inner namaste to oneself. So we're not pushing so hard. We're not judging ourselves. We're allowing this gentleness, this kindness, this inner respect to really permeate ourselves. To see that whatever the challenge is, we're doing the very best we can. And wherever we are, it's perfectly okay. Because nothing ever is what it appears to be. So the more that we relax, the more that we allow these concepts to just simply melt and trust just the brilliance and the intelligence of life itself, then we can just sit. We can sit in a centered way. We can sit in a trusting way. And not only do we not have to work so hard, do we not have to feel a sense of lack, but we actually begin a genuine sense of celebrating, that our default mode becomes joy. And we just very naturally and organically begin to let go of things that just simply no longer serve us. An inner bow to what they were, how they did serve us, but now to let them go. And an inner bow also to what does serve us, and the gifts that we are always receiving and how they unfold in our life. Good. So you can begin to work your way out of this backward bend if you like. You can put your feet on the floor. You could stay in if you would like to enjoy a longer time here. You could come out and you could relax. If there's a counter pose that you need, you could move into that. Come into Savasana. You could sit up and join me in closing our practice. And touch the earth, honor the sky, bless the water. And namaste.